welcome to our Swansea Business Power Hour with Focus Futures and Helen Corsi-Cadmore. So welcome, Helen, to this session. Thank you for joining us. Just to let everybody know that the session is being recorded live, and we'll be holding a Q&A session towards the end of the session after Helen's presented some slides. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel, so please feel free to join us on our YouTube channel to check out this particular presentation and others that we have available. But in the meantime, Helen, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand over to you now to talk us through some of the great work that Focus Futures have been doing in partnership with Swansea Council and some of the top tips that you've got for some businesses here in Swansea as well. So thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Ed. Thank you so much. Lovely to be here. I hope everyone is keeping warm. It's very warm here in South Wales today, so I hope everyone's keeping warm. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen. I have got some slides, so I'm just going to put those on a second. So just bear with me. And I'm just going to get those started from the beginning. Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, as I said, thank you. Thank you so much, Ed. And this is call it a power hour. I'm going to get in as much as I can within that time for you today. And I'll try and make it as interactive as I can. I know death by PowerPoint can be quite boring, but let's see where we go. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of an agenda. So I'll do a very short introduction to Focus Futures and to myself. Then we'll do about 35 minutes for the main session, and then we'll do a Q&A towards the end if anyone has got any burning questions, and we can do some problem sort of solving together as well. So let's get started. So who are Focus Futures? So Focus Futures are a fully funded business support organisation. We specialise in helping startups and small businesses grow sustainably, really. The projects are currently being delivered in Swansea, Cardiff and Carmarthenshire, and we aim to support our local communities by providing a mixture of support, guidance, opportunity around self-employment and enterprise. And we also deliver this via a mix of community-based learning, face-to-face sessions and online sessions. And we do it this way to ensure that everyone has access, okay? And I always say this to everyone I speak to, is no idea or no request is too big or small for us. We've got a lovely team with all levels of experience and background, and we're here to help you in whatever stage of that journey you may be on. But I think it's really important just to get to a little bit and know about me. So I guess why I'm okay to be here and talking to you this morning. As Ed said, my name is Helen Corsi-Cadmore. It's quite a long name, but I am an exited founder of the retail brand Flying Tiger Copenhagen, and that was about a £6 million business with approximately 250 staff at any given time throughout that joint venture. I'm also a co-founder of a women's network called She Thrives, and that empowers people in Swansea, Cardiff and online to come together to have a collaborative community for business people. And as you know, I'm the business advisor here for the Swansea Shared Prosperity Fund team of Focus Futures. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm sitting down, but if you meet me ever in person, I'm actually 6 foot tall. So it's a little bit of a fun fact about me as well. Okay, but I'm going to get started. Like I said, we've not got a lot of time. So the first thing I really want to start with is to say, well done for showing up today and actually taking this step to learn a little bit about not only how we can support you, the local authority, but taking the important step in starting a business, because it can be seen to be exciting, because you wouldn't be here and listening to this today, but it can be really overwhelming because there's so many different elements of starting a business. But I wanted to think of 3 main pillars to what I would call success. And the biggest one that comes up is actually mindset. And you may or may not have heard this sort of bandied around quite a lot online or in person, but what does that actually mean? So when you're thinking of starting a business, I bet you would never think mindset or resilience or confidence would ever come up. But it's one of the biggest parts of starting a business. And it's really important because it'll make a huge difference to how you show up each and every day. If you've got resilience in business, give yourself a bit of a tick, because a lot of people don't. And this is where it can lead to, I mentioned earlier about the overwhelm. We want to be constantly adapting and learning and taking what we can from people that have been there or people that are on the same journey as well with you. So when you think of showing up each day, I want you to think of, right, what is my mindset like today? Am I in a positive attitude? Am I feeling confident? If I'm not, that's okay. I want you to remember, you can't be a positive person all the time in business. You literally can't. But what can you do to help you if you're just not feeling it? Like I said, are there people there that are around you that can support you? 90% of business is about mindset. So keep that at the forefront of your mind. What do you think about planning? Another pillar there to success. A lot of people hate planning. Hands up, I'm one of those people. I'm actually I like action. I like to get things going. I like to have goals and realistic steps, but I'm actually not a huge planner. So the way I plan is in shorter chunks. So for me, if someone said to me, right, you need to plan the next sort of 10 years, you've lost me. I need to do short, realistic, but clear goals that actually work with me and will work with your business. So think about how you can take realistic steps. Like I said, showing up today, taking this information in and having those clear goals that work for you in your business, not what sort of society tells you to do. That's really important as well. And the last one I would say is support. Nobody succeeds alone in business. Absolutely nobody. So whatever that support will look like, whether that is the local authority, whether that is Focus Futures, friends, colleagues, advisors, take it. Absolutely grab what you can and take as much as you can from it, because there is a lot of support out there at the moment. And I think it's really, really great to have that level of support that's going to give you the accountability as well that you definitely will need in your business journey. And like I said, you've taken the first step by being here. So really well done. Okay, so one of the things we're going to look at is a business plan. When I speak to potential clients and I say, have you ever looked or completed a business plan before? The kind of face goes blank and they're like, no, where do I even start? And the one thing I want to remind you is to keep things simple. I think a business plan can be absolutely huge. You can go on and on and on. It can be pages and pages and pages. But in reality, it's something that will help you have what I like to call more of a working document. And you can dip into your business plan as you and your business changes and grows. These are the things that it does. It clarifies what you're offering, who your customers are, how you can reach out to them, and like I said, use it as a working document that's going to be relevant to your audience and what you actually need it for. It may also be crucial for funding. So if you are looking for any sort of support, whether that's grant support via local authority, whether that's loans, any sort of funding, the first thing we'll ask you for is a business plan. So we need to make sure that it is clear. It does do what it says, so it does show what you're offering. And in there, you can have realistic goals and it'll help you also make decisions for the future. But like I said, let's not overcomplicate it and let's keep it as simple as possible. So on the next page, I'm going to go through the sort of what I would say are the key elements of a business plan. When I first heard this sort of statement, the executive summary, for somebody that's just started a business, I think it sounds quite scary, in all honesty. It sounds quite, it's not posh, but it sounds, quite formal, an executive summary. But all it is basically what your business does. So can you imagine if you were sat next to somebody in a meeting, on a bus, with your friends, and someone asks you what you do? This would be sort of like the pitch element of your business plan. So it would be literally what your business does. What are your goals? What is the actual headline of what your business will offer or could offer? And the next stage then is what we would call market research. This is all about the who. So who are you targeting? Who is your audience? Who are your competitors? Again, a lot of people I speak to get really concerned or scared that there's lots of competition. I like to reframe that and flip it and say, if there's competition there, it's good. And I want to use that as a positive. A lot of people have already done research. If you're in a similar industry, then people will have done research. You need to do your own research to make sure that your service is there. But if there are competitors, it can be a really positive thing because there's a need for your market. This is an analogy I always talk about. And can you imagine if we walk down a bread aisle in a supermarket, okay? How many loaves of bread are there? There's a lot, right? There's a lot of different breads. I can guarantee we all wouldn't choose the same loaf of bread. So I want you to think of, there is room for everybody in the market. We've got to make you stand out as being the best or unique in your certain field. So do your research, check there is a need for your business. But remember, if you come up against there's lots of competitors, generally that's a good thing. It's got to make you stand out, okay? The next thing then we've got is marketing strategy. So this is all about the how. So we've talked about the who are your audience? The marketing side of it is the how. How are we going to get your customers? We live in a very digital world, right? Just to be able to do this online now is fantastic. Not everyone, though, is online. So actually, you've got to remember in your marketing strategy that we would have potentially a digital presence because it is important. But depending on what industry or what service you're offering, it could be that you're going to, give an example, help the elderly with their gardening. Okay. Now, this is being a bit broad, I guess, but I know, for example, when my grandparents were alive, they weren't on social media. So they're never going to find you on social media. So we need to make sure that we're covering our services to a range of people in a range of ways. So it could be that you need to go a little bit old school. And I say old school because flyers back in the day, that was the only thing we had. It was all about going out and putting things through people's doors. Okay, we need to make sure we're doing it in a eco-friendly way. So if you are going to do any flyers, please make sure you're using recyclable paper and all of that. Just making sure I'm getting that in there. But it could be that actually you need to adapt your strategy for different people. So networking is a huge opportunity as well. Like I said at the beginning, so Focus Futures offers a range of services, and that is we've got actually a networking tomorrow. You can come in person and actually talk about what you do. Okay, so there's lots of different elements. It doesn't just have to be online, it can be networking. And I put down there referrals. Referrals, I think, is one of the best forms of marketing. If you've done a really good job for somebody and somebody talks about you, then hey, you're not doing anything there. It's free. It's free marketing. So think about what your marketing strategy is going to look like for you and certain elements of your business. The other side of business plan is the operational side. So think about the tools and the sort of behind the scenes. What's that going to look like? Are you going to need staff? What do your suppliers look like? How much are you going to pay for those? Where's the location of your business? Is it an in-person? Is it bricks and mortar? Is it online? So think about all the tasks that come with actually running your business. So this is what I would call under the operational side of things. And then lastly, the financials. So all of these ideas, all of these market research, the how, the who, the tools, but actually if you do all that in your business plan and the costs don't stack up or the pricing isn't right, then you've got to ask yourself, is it actually worth it? So with the support that local authority, myself and my colleagues in Focus Futures can support you in making sure your cash flow, and we'll talk about cash flow a little bit later, and your forecast, so your projections and your costs and your pricing are as accurate as they can be without overestimating. So there's the sort of basis, is what I say would be a simple but a robust business plan. So what is your business? What does it do? Who are you targeting? How are you going to target them? The tools you need behind the scenes to make it work, and actually then the financials, is it worth doing? Okay, we're going to move on to the formation now. So the business formation and what is best for your business. There's probably I'd say 3 formations that I come across the most, and I'd say there's no really best way because each individual is going to choose a different route. The sole trader route is probably the easiest to set up. It's very straightforward. What you've got to remember with being a sole trader is you are the business, so you take on the full liability. So for example, Helen Coursey Cadmore is my business. I am fully liable for everything in that business as an individual. And I would say this is probably the most suitable for freelancers, small businesses, small operations, those that are starting out. It's the one people probably do most of the time. Like I said, there's pros and cons to all of them, and I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. The second one is if you were going into business with a business partner, a colleague, a friend, then I would say a partnership setup would be the best option, just because you've got shared responsibilities and risks. If you are going to go down a route of a partnership, you have to make sure that a clear agreement is essential for both of you. So you set out your sort of job roles, your terms of your business between the both of you, and have that from the offset. So nothing will sort of come back in the future between you if anything does happen to unfortunately go wrong. And then the last one is a limited company. Now, this is a completely separate legal identity. The liability is within the business. Now, this actually can be more tax efficient, and people, I think, get scared by going into a limited company because it is more, can be seen as more admin complexity involved. But again, there are people like myself, local authorities, accountants that can support you in setting up a limited company. And actually the benefits that you can get from it can be more lucrative than potentially being a sole trader. So they're the 3, I would say: sole trader, partnership, and limited company. And I'm going to go through a little bit about tax on these as well. So with the sole trader element, you pay, you as an individual would pay tax on your income, on your profit. So any profit you make within your business, you would pay income tax, business income tax. You also pay national insurance contributions on any profits that you make through your business as a sole trader. Limited company is slightly different. You would pay corporation tax when you start making a profit in the business. And something to remember as well, if your business is doing really well and you are making more than £90,000 a year in income, then you must register for VAT because you will have hit the VAT threshold as well. So just a few things there to remember in regards to the tax side of things. I am not a tax specialist, so please don't take anything as gold, and things will change, like I said, whatever you are in your business. So always seek support and advice relevant to the section that you may have any questions on. But I will, if you do have any questions on that, I'll answer them as best as I can towards the end. So make a note of that as well. Okay, so when you've got your business idea, you've got your business plan in place, the next thing is to register your business. If you earn more than £1,000 in income from business services, then you have to register your business, something to remember as well. And to do this, choose a business name. Now, a lot of people I work with spend a lot of time thinking about a business name, a business logo, all of the aesthetics that come with it, when actually, does it really matter? Does it really matter? What I would say is you can change. You can always change. And as you grow with your business and your brand, you can move. But it's really important to find something that's already not in use as well, and something that is aligned with your brand. If you are offering a service-based business, like I said, for example, mine is my name. Okay, it's easy. I'm not going to forget it because it's my name. It's not already in use. I've got quite an unusual name. And it does align with me because I am my brand, for example. And what you need to do as well is check with the domains and social handles. So if you are going to put your business online, then like I said, my business name is fairly unusual. If your name is, I don't know, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith, for example, there may be more than one Smiths. So you may have to adapt your name to, I don't know, Mr. Smith Wales or Mr. Smith 123. So you just need to make sure that all of those are available and they're not already in use. You might be surprised as well that when even if you think your name won't be in use, somebody out there has already thought of your brand. So yeah, you may have to tweak it as you go along as well. What you'll need to do as well, as I mentioned, if you do earn over £1,000, you have to register as being a sole trader, and you register with HMRC. You actually register for a self-assessment. So you may hear this as being a tax return. This is something you have to do, and you will be given a UTR number, which is a unique transaction reference number for yourself and your business. And as I said, Focus Futures can absolutely help you in registering your business. Again, a lot of people get a bit scared in thinking that it's going to be a really challenging thing to do. It's really not, and it takes, if you've got all your ID with you, I've done it with clients within half an hour. So I always think of it as a really exciting part of your business when you're registering your business. It feels like, yep, I've got this. I'm actually now, I can go, I've got my business registered, and off I go into the sunset and make all the money that you want to make. If you decide to go down the limited companies route, then you register with Companies House. So slightly different. You do have to do a little bit more with that. But again, the support is here to help you do that if that's the option. And if you register as a partnership, you register that with HMRC as well. Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about now, which again, I believe are sort of essential startups. Business bank account. Do you think you need to have a business bank account for your business? A lot of people do, and some people don't. You have to have one legally for a limited company if you do go down that route. But I would highly, highly recommend you get one, even if you are a sole trader. The reasons for that, twofold actually. It makes you feel like you've got a real business and you've got a business bank account. Comes back to that, yes, I feel like I'm here when you've got a business bank account. And it separates your business accounts from your personal accounts as well. And it just makes things a lot easier when you come to do your self-assessment or your tax return. There are some fantastic business bank accounts out there now. I remember when I was starting up with Tiger, the only options that are available to me, well, are presented to me then, were big high streets, very, very corporate banks that were really quite scary at the time. There are a lot more sort of online banks now, and I'm not going to sort of recommend any in particular, but there are some there that can give you free accounting software as well, which can link into your self-assessment or your tax return, which will be really, really helpful for you when you're starting out as well. So remember, just as you think you don't have to have a bank account, business bank account, get one. You separate your personal from your business incomings and outgoings. So I would highly recommend getting one. Licenses or permits. So depending on your industry, do a bit of research, okay? And with your advisor, if you do get support from Focus Futures or anyone that you're working with, make sure you've got the correct licenses or permits depending on what business you're looking to set up. For example, if you're looking to start a taxi business, you have to have a taxi license. If you're looking to start a, let me think of one, a food stall, you have to have relevant food licenses. Okay, so just make sure that you've got those in place to enable you to be doing things right from the offset. The other one is business insurance. Now, again, people forget this, okay? And I would say one of the first things you need to do is get some quotes for business insurance. Really, really important that you're covering yourself, basically. You're covering yourself and potentially your clients. There's certain parts of business insurance which you may or may not need, depending on if you employ staff. But yeah, definitely public liability and professional indemnity for service business as well. Like I said, you're providing a professional service, and you could have claims brought against you. I don't want to be seen as the negative here, but there could be people out there who are not happy and they may bring a claim to you. So just make sure that you're covering yourself as well as your clients in the insurance side of things. And also, actually, I'm going to touch on that a bit later, so I'm not going to talk about it there. I'm going to come on to that in a little bit. Okay. Hope I'm not going too fast for everyone. I'm just really conscious of time and I want to make sure I get enough across to you as I can in this time. Understanding cash flow. So I mentioned this at the beginning with your business plan. Cash flow is basically what it says. It's the flow of money that comes in and out, okay? So we've got to remember that there's going to be certain times when we've got money coming in, and there's going to be certain times when we've got money going out. And a profitable business can still fail due to poor cash flow. So if this is an element of your business that isn't something you're really confident in, then please, I would say, seek further support on this. Because cash will become king in your business. And I don't actually mean now cash in the real form of cash, notes. We don't seem to have that much anymore. But even the flow of the income is going to be king. And this is honestly something I would say is one of the most important things, to make sure your cash flow is accurate as much as it can be, to ensure that you've got enough money coming into your business to pay for your suppliers, your staff, if you've got staff, because there are common pitfalls that come up. And this could be overestimating income, especially when you're starting. We think, right, we've got our business plan, we've got our website up and running, we've got our insurance. All of these clients and all these people are going to come rushing into us. In reality, that doesn't happen all the time. Okay, we've got to start and build our business. But one thing I would say is, if we ignore our cash flow, it can become, well, can become a nightmare. In all honesty, it can become a nightmare. So understand as well, depending on what your business is, let's say, for example, you're a retail business, okay? And the last quarter of the year is going to be one of the most lucrative parts. So Christmas, people generally do spend on Christmas. So we know that potentially the last quarter, that income may cover the whole of your year. But are we remembering that we're going to have ongoing expenses throughout the year? So it's about managing those ebbs and flows of money coming in and money coming out. And I just remember that cash is king at all times. So we really, really have to ensure that we have a profitable business with a good cash flow. Okay, sorry, my screen's not deciding to move a second, just bear with me. Okay, there we go. Okay, this was brought to my attention actually recently by lovely Ed actually. And we were talking about how time is money, and I think it's a really important thing to talk about actually. When I read into the report a little bit more, I was absolutely astonished at how many businesses close each year, but could be avoided by just making sure some simple steps are in place. Up to 50,000 businesses close each year. Just that number to me is absolutely insane. And I think it comes back to this time is money. So we need to ensure that we have the right payment options, not only for you, but for your clients, and to ensure that we don't close by being too flexible. Okay. So by this, I'm going to give you sort of 4 options of how to ensure that we can avoid these potential closures. So having prompt payment options. So let's talk about if you're a service-based business, okay? Say you were offering, say you're offering some coaching or advice in a certain area, certain industry, and somebody wants to work with you. Absolutely amazing. I want you to remember that you are knowledgeable, you're experienced, and people want to pay you for your time. So make sure you get those payments in advance if possible, or at least 75% of that up front. I want you to think about it. If you went into, let's go back to the supermarket. I love the supermarket. If you go back into a supermarket and you decided to got a trolley load of shopping, and then you said, thank you very much. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to pay you tomorrow if that's okay. It just wouldn't happen. So I want you to think of that mindset, coming back to that mindset I talked about at the beginning, of having prompt payment options. So you make sure that people pay you in advance for your time, your service, your knowledge, your experience. A lot of people have this 28 or 38 days invoice payments. Where did that come from? And do we think it's acceptable at the moment? Remember, come back to that cash flow. We've got money coming in, money going out. We've got to remember that you're a business, and I want you to avoid having to close. So I want to make sure that when you are offering, just touch on the service based here, that you are paid for your experience, your knowledge in advance. The full payments up front, at least ask for 75% and 25% on completion. This will then cover your costs, your operational costs in the background, and give you some money that you deserve as well. So that's what I want you to think about. And if you did want to go down the route of having a date on an invoice, then let's not go down the 30 days. Why are we having to wait 30 days for something you've already delivered? Make it shorter. Do it 7 days. If you have to do an invoice time on it, do it shorter. But I would always say get your get your money in advance. There are options out there now, such as just an example of Klarna. So you may have seen it if you go to buy something online. It gives you an option of spreading your payments over 3 payments. That could be an option as well. So that is a helpful way for clients that maybe can't pay everything up front, but it gives them a payment plan or a payment option. So you're supporting clients in a way that works for them as well. And make it easy. Please, 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 when you're offering a service, a product, whatever that is, make it easy for people to pay. So have you got links to buy a product? Have you got links to pay for a service? Again, I'm not going to name too many, but there are lots of payment options that can link in to your bank account, and you would just send a link to somebody to pay, like we all do now. You know, we're in the culture that we do pay for a lot of things online. So I want you to remember that, to make it easy for people to pay. If people struggle to find an option to make that payment, you'll lose them. They'll go somewhere else. Okay, so just make it as easy as we can with strong what we call call to actions. And remember to have clear boundaries from the offset. So if you've got contracts in place with potential clients, make sure your payments, your terms are set out right from the offset, so people know that they're working with you. This is the way you work, and this is your business, and this is how you're going to take payments. So yeah, I don't want you to be in that one of those 50,000 people that close each year. Okay, so like I said, let's get the right payment options for you and your clients in place from the offset. Okay, so let's look at tools and templates. From the beginning, I said let's try and keep things as simple as possible. When you're starting out, I want you to feel that you're in control of your business. As you grow and as you develop, things will absolutely change. But when you're starting out, let's just use the basic, like an Excel document, Google Sheets. Other companies are available. I just want to caveat that as well. You know, there's simple accounting software platforms like Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, for example. There's lots out there that are there relatively cheap, and some can be free as well if you wanted to use an external system or software. But let's just keep things simple initially. Okay, let's just go back to basics and use Excel or Google Sheets to support you. If you did decide to come with Focus Futures to help you in any of the things that I've talked about today, we've got really great business plan templates you can follow, very simple cash flow forecasts, and lots of different other templates that we can help you review your plans or your cash flows as well. Okay, I'm just going to touch on what I would call the entrepreneurial mindset. Okay, and any sort of traits in regards to being resilient. So I want you to think of always having a growth mindset. And by growth, I don't mean that you have to grow your business when you're starting to a huge empire. Okay, that might not be for you, but I want you to see a growth mindset as having opportunities that will take you on a journey that's going to work for you and your business. That could be your own self-development, your own personal development. It could be just learning things like even the basics of how to use an Excel spreadsheet. You may never have used one before, and that's okay. But I want you to see as having failures or things that you're just not capable of right now as learning opportunities. Turning those into opportunities for the future is going to help you to have that growth mindset. To be adaptable, okay? I put down there willingness to pivot. Pivot, that word always reminds me of something I used to do when I used to play netball, pivoting around. But actually all it means is change. And also, as you know, we've 5 years ago now got through a global pandemic, and lots of businesses had to change or pivot within that time. And that's going to continue, hopefully not the pandemic, but as you grow and you adapt in your business, there's going to be times when you're going to have to change. So it's remembering that growth mindset and that adaptability at all times will help you have that resilience and have that need to maybe seek support and adapt where needed. If at any point you lose focus, which you absolutely will, 100% you will lose focus at some point within your business. You want to pack it all in, and why am I even starting this? It'll come back to your why. Why did you want to get into starting your own business in the first place? Where did that entrepreneurial mindset come from? Your why is going to be different to mine. It's going to be different to your friends, different to your other business, business colleagues. Everybody is different. But if you do lose focus, always come back to why did you start? Because there's going to be lots and lots of challenges that will come up, but it's going to be how you respond to those challenges that will really, really matter. So how can we overcome some of these challenges? I want you to think of two sort of elements, the practical side and the personal well-being side. So if you're coming up against challenges and a practical point of view, break the problems down into steps. When we look at something and it becomes a really, really big problem, if we narrow it down into smaller things, or we get through the smaller things first, that will help. Talked about it earlier about the cash is king, okay? I want you to review your finances regularly, all the time. Check in on how things are going. Are you constantly reviewing utility, for example? If you work from home, are you making sure that you are on the right tariff for your electricity? If you're using a laptop all the time, all of these things that you may think are just normal part of life, but actually they're really important to your business. And celebrate the small stuff. We don't celebrate enough. So I want you to think about if you have registered your business, right? Let's celebrate that. It's huge. If you've opened up a business bank account, let's celebrate that. It's all of the small steps that are going to help you achieve the challenges that you will come across in business. Personal well-being. I'm not going to go into this too much, but it's a huge part that I do talk about with clients as well when you're in business, because nobody's going to remember if you didn't take a break, but they'll remember when you suffered burnout from not taking a break. So how is your time management? Are you leaning on that support that I said is going to be really, really important? Are you managing your time efficiently? What I do come across as well with clients, if they've come or they're still in maybe a corporate environment and they're used to that 9 to 5 work time frame, they're used to working those hours. Does that work for you now? It could be that actually you've got a family, or you're looking after elderly parents or whatever, that actually you need to work different times. You need to work maybe 3 till 7 in the evening. Okay, great. I want you to remember that this is your business and you can work it how you want to work it. Just because it's the norm, those hours are set from very historic now, they will help you to have that mentality that, yes, okay, there's going to be times where you're going to be working probably 16 hours a day when you're starting out, because you're starting out. Remember that nobody will remember that you didn't take a break. They'll remember when you had when you were burnt out and things. So reflect, celebrate the small stuff. And the bottom one there is seek a mentor, get peer support, lean on people in your industry, surrounding you, regularly go to networking, not just to potentially gain clients, but to have that support so you understand people will also be in the same position as you. Just going to check in on the time because I do like to talk, but I think I'm doing okay. Plan for the unexpected, okay? Build in a contingency. do you have an emergency? Sounds quite strong, actually, that word, isn't it? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have some money in your cash flow, in your forecast, that if things do go wrong, like what if scenarios, you know, if you get sick and you can't work, have you got insurance in place that covers you if you get sick and you can't work? There is that option as well for some people. What if a major client leaves? So you've only got one major client and they decide to no longer work with you. Okay, what's that going to do to my cash flow? Have I got any reserves in place to cover off those expenses? So we need to remember to plan and also have like a backup plan if anything does go wrong. That's really important as well, to identify those key risks, and those would come into the business plan. What would be the key risks that may be unexpected, that you can ensure that they are in your plan, in your backup plan. Okay, I have talked now for, I don't know what the time is, probably about 40 minutes, and there's a lot there, and I've gone into it in very, very, very small detail. But what would be the sort of next steps if you are looking to start, grow, pivot a business? It would be to book in a one-to-one session with a business advisor here. You can sign up for the workshops with Focus Futures and the local authorities, and we've got actually one coming up tomorrow if you're watching this live now. Or to contact us at swansea@focusfutures.co.uk. And just remember that you're not alone in this, okay? So there's some amazing, like I said earlier, it's amazing support out there in all different areas that can support you. So if we've got any burning questions, or if you'd like to share your own experience or challenges right now, I'm happy to problem solve together. But if you did have any questions along the line, then please feel free to ask away.
Thank you, Helen. That's been massively informative. And it'd be incredibly useful to anyone thinking about setting up a business or requiring some galvanization in their existing business, perhaps. So yeah, I've had a couple of questions that have come in, and I just wanted to ask you one on a fairly broad context, and one which is more specific about the relationship between Focus Futures and Swansea Council. But the first one was quite broad in respect to all the planning that you've put in there, the risk understanding risks in the business. You touched on the why, and that was the question I wanted to ask, or the question here I have for you is about exit. So when we're talking about setting up a business, we're also positive about and so motivated and enthusiastic about where that business is going, but we don't actually consider perhaps how do we get out of it? Well, first of all, why we do it, what's the end objective, what are we trying to achieve with that business, but then how do we extract ourselves from that to either pivot, as you talked about earlier on, or to slip into a life of retirement, sat on Swansea Beach. But so
I think I'd probably go further afield. I love Swansea.
Nothing wrong with Swansea at all.
There's not.
But so how should we consider exit strategies and within our business planning? Is it something that we need to do?
Absolutely, and it's a really good point, actually. I think it's often missed, and one of the things you would be really beneficial is to think about what that exit strategy does look like for you. Is it something that you're going into business, you want to be in for a year, and is it a bit of a side hustle and you want to just have a little bit of a top up? Great. Is it going to be a multi-million-pound business? So you think, okay, yeah, I want to have a 5-year plan. I want to exit within 5 years. Have the conversations from the offset. What I didn't mention it, in honesty, because a lot of people get quite scared of like, oh, hang on a second, where do I even go with the exit side of things? And just give you an example, when I was in Tiger, that for us, it was always a 5-year business plan. And there were times within that period that I wish we'd exited sooner. And I didn't listen to other people's advice then, because I was very passionate about the business and I wanted to, in my head, I had 5 years and that's what I wanted to stay till. So I would say it will depend on, obviously, you as a person. the industry, the business, but start to think about, is it a 5-year and that's it? That's your plan? Is it a 10-year? Is it a 20-year plan? Who knows? But actually put that in. It's a really good point to actually put that into your plan, into your head, and understand what that why is. Like you said, is it that, you're starting a business for various reasons, financial freedom, to support local communities, whatever those reasons are, but absolutely have conversations with relevant people from the offset, so what that forecast is going to look like, what your accounts are going to look like. Yeah, it's a really good point.
It's interesting, isn't it? We have a grant applicants who are setting up a business for those very reasons. It's a side hustle, or it could be the next best, business on Dragon's Den or whatever.
Yeah.
But and we all go into these things with the best of intentions, and we dip our toe in.
Yeah.
But then before you know it, all of a sudden it's become something else. And actually you're thinking, help, well, how do I get out of this? Or it's become too much, too big, or it hasn't actually delivered what I wanted it to deliver. So knowing how to get out is a good thing to have in your mind from the outset. The other question then was in relation to was a bit more sort of in relation to the grant applications that Swansea Council have in respect to the business plan and the grant application itself. The grant application, so just to put some context around this, so Swansea Council's UK Shared Prosperity Fund business grants team, we receive hundreds of grant applications for the pre-start growth grant or carbon reduction or innovation grants that we have. So they're all coming at it from different contexts. So we'll get an application form, which usually we see content taken from the business plan and dropped into that application form, which is no issue with that whatsoever. But the criticality of that cash flow forecast to support the content of that business plan and the application form is something that cannot be understated, underestimated. It's another story in its own right, and has to connect into that application form and that business plan. And so and the other thing that, just to kind of highlight from what you have said, is that cash flow forecast is not a profit and loss forecast or a sales forecast. It is very much about the movement of money. And so one of the common things that we do see with grant applications is that first, in that sort of opening months of the formation of the business, is the injection of cash from the grant and the expenses for the grant expenditure in the first month. In reality, it's not going to work like that. The grant is a reimbursable grant, so it takes a bit of time around that. So the point I'm trying to make is the work that you guys do at Focus Futures is absolutely really helpful to help businesses work that through in their sort of first few months.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the focus, actually, before we even get to the grant application stage, the way we work is, the first thing I always do is a business plan. So people think, oh, great, we've got the grant application form, let's fill that in. I'm like, no, let's not even look at that now. Let's actually make sure that the business idea is robust enough to even get to the grant application stage. Let's do the business plan. Like I said, the template we've got, it is quite in depth, but I think especially people that are starting out, it gives a lot of information in there that can support them, not just from the offset, but ongoing. And then once we've done the business plan, then we look at the cash flow. And actually, what I said there, is the business viable? Is it worth, are you going to actually make any money? And I think, we have to be very realistic with a lot of clients and take a lot off that. If they come to us already with a cash flow forecast, it's like, right, we need to be realistic here and probably reduce a lot of that down. Because I'd love you to be making, hundreds of £1,000s in your first week. It's unfortunately probably not going to happen. It's going to take time. And then that is linked into the way we do it then is the grant application. And by the time I get to that stage, that just feels really easy. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, great, because you've done all the work before to get to the actual application stage. So yeah, it's a process. It is a process. And what we do sort of come up against as well is people don't realise that, you know, this isn't just about giving you money. It's about actually understanding that, is the business viable, and is it going to benefit the local area, which it has to. You know, obviously it's a Swansea Council grant, so it has to. Of course it does. You know,
other grants are available.
Other grants are available. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So one last question just come in before we wrap up is the importance of mindset. So you talked about it as your first one of those three sort of pillars you referred to. Why is mindset so important?
90% of business will come down to how you show up and how you feel. And if, for example, you are not in the best mindset, and like, I don't mean you have to be positive all the time, that's just not reality. If you are not seeking the support that you genuinely need, if you're not seeking the accountability that's going to help you progress, then your mindset won't be in a good place. And that will have a ripple effect on your business, your clients, your customers. So it all feeds in. And I think people don't realize that. I think it has that ripple effect. So for me, it's the key, absolute key.
Yeah, fantastic. But that's been brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing all of those really helpful, informative pieces of information. Informative information. Uninformative information is not, I've never heard of that either, really. But anyway, so thank you very much. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the work that you're doing with Focus Futures. It's been invaluable to our grant applicants and also to us and the business team as well. And also congratulations on She Thrives Collective as well. I hope that goes on in positive vein. So thank you once more. And we will be posting this on YouTube. So if you're catching this up on YouTube, thank you for watching. And we will see you again for our next episode of Power Hour in the near future. But in the meantime, thank you very much, Helen.